Happy Thursday, everyone. It is Sharla K coming live to you guys with another Forever Friends Academy episode. How are you guys doing? How is everyone doing? I hope you have been having a fantastic week. And maybe I don't know where you are, but hopefully you had some hints of spring. We definitely did where I live. We have both hints of spring and and the weather going back to remind us like, oh yeah, it's not here yet. But I appreciate the days when we did have it. So, wherever you are, maybe you're already in the nice weather and maybe you just stay there. Kudos to you. But wherever you are, I hope you're having a great night, and I hope you can stop by to chat with me for a little bit as per usual. So let me introduce myself to any newcomers who might be on to the podcast tonight. And if you are, I would love. Let me say thank you for coming on my little spot on the internet. I appreciate you. Hopefully I say something that resonates with you. And I am an author, a recording artist, creator of Interact Coaching and Forever Friends Academy, which is the same title of this podcast. We talk about all relationship topics. I have one goal and one aim only, which is to help people love to their fullest capacity. I really believe that relationships are the fundamental building block to anything that we experience here. So that's my aim, that's my mission, and that's what we talk about on the show. So welcome if you're new, and to all my people who return with me. Thank you guys for coming with me. And I see my beautiful sister in love, Erin. How are you, beautiful? Thank you for popping in. All right, so I'm going to get right into it because I started a little later today. Had some little technical difficulties, but I made it. I'm here. But I wanted to talk, I got my icebreaker question that I always have for you guys, and then we'll get into the main topic. But the icebreaker scenario, really, that I came up with was because of the news. I don't know if all of you have heard about O.J. Simpson's passing today. I heard about it like later on in the afternoon. Sometimes I go and substitute teach in the district where I live just to kind of pay my homage for the teachers who impacted my life. And I found out that, O.J. Simpson had passed today after I had, after I was finishing up teaching. And when I tell you I went on my phone, like kind of not right away, but a couple of minutes after I found out, once I was told to see, of course, what, the details of it. And when I went on YouTube, literally a video came up of a podcast, a very famous podcast, and they were talking about his death. But the thing that shocked me was the title that they gave to the video. First of all, they were on it. Like, well, maybe I was late. I don't know exactly what when they disclosed his passing, but nonetheless, it hasn't been 24 hours. And the title that they gave the video was basically, "Will he rest in peace?" They were talking about his death, and they said, "Will OJ rest in peace?" Of course, because of the type of life that he lived. And it really just really tugged at my heart, because I don't know if any of you guys have seen, I have children, so that's the reason why I've seen this movie. And in the movie, and I'm at loss for the name now. Oh my God, so terrible. But I thought of the animation, but it's basically an animation about where this little boy, I think he has a relative who has passed on. And I think it's his grandfather, and his grandfather's a singer. And I guess it left really a bad stain when he passed away. I can't remember exactly what it was that the family thought the grandfather pursuing his music career would do to affect the family. But nonetheless, the little boy wanted to be a musician, but they refused for him. They wouldn't let him do it because of how it turned out with his grandfather. And nonetheless, to make a long story short, in the movie, they basically, when you passed on, it was how someone remembered you that either afforded you to be, it was like different sections, basically, in the afterlife where the people lived. And if people remembered you in like a good way, meaning like you impacted their life, they had positive things and memories to recollect about you and your life, then of course you were able to go in like the highest places in the heavenlies. And if you were either thought of in a negative way or even worse, forgotten about, where people didn't remember you at all, then it's almost like your spirit would like just be forgotten. And so because of seeing that video and how they immediately started to process O.J. Simpson's passing because of his, life, I wanted to present a question to you guys as far it was kind of like a question slash scenario for my icebreaker to you guys tonight. And you guys let me know what your thoughts on. Hey, Justin, how are you? Thank you for popping in with me. And you guys let me know. So I think what I'm going to do, I'm going to throw out the quote to you guys because it's all along the lines of, what we're going to be kind of talking about in the scenario. So the quote for tonight is basically that the most precious artifact you can leave in life is the legacy of a life well lived. So I'll say that again. The quote for tonight is the most precious artifact that you can leave is the legacy of a life well lived. All right, so that's the quote for tonight. As always, let me know what your thoughts are. Do you think that is, a quote that you can keep at the center of your relationship, at the center of your thoughts? That'll help, facilitate growth, help you to move and navigate through life, rediscovering, better versions of yourself. So that's the quote for tonight. And I'm going to tie it into the little icebreaker scenario that I have for you guys. So along the same lines of the animation that I brought up, imagine that you have the opportunity, right? Let's just say, I don't know, you're the guard. You're the guard at Heaven's Gate, right? And let's just say that there is something like that, I guess the best example would be like how here in our life right now, you have people who live in mansions, you have people who, I don't know, live in condos, and then you have people who live in villages and there's levels, right? Depending on, I guess if you're in Western world, capitalism and how much you can, you have been able to, right? Be able to thrive in life to get certain things. So let's just imagine you're a guard, right? In heaven. And you get to choose who those people are who get to be in the different levels. And let's say there are 3 levels in Heaven's Gates, right? This is all hypothetical, guys. There are 3 levels in Heaven's Gates, right? And you get to pick the people who you feel like based on, I guess, what they do in life or how many people they help because of what they do, who gets to get in level 1. And let's say the level 1 is mansions. And let's say, I don't know, the level 2 is, I don't know, equivalent to a condo or something. And then the level 3 would be like a lower level, and let me know who would you put there. All right. So I have five examples that I want to present to you guys, but you can also come up with your own. All right. So we got the first one is basically a surgeon, right? And let's just say maybe he's a surgeon, he or she. I don't know. I don't know. I don't want to put genders on. I just kind of want to based on what they do, right? So there's a surgeon, heart surgeon, I don't know, maybe does transplants or something like that, something along the lines of that, right? So we have a surgeon. We have, let's say, a nurse, right? So we have a surgeon, a nurse. We have an entertainer, right? And I know that's very broad. Maybe I should make it specific. No, I'm going to leave it just like that because that's too much for me to wrap my head around. All right, so we have a surgeon, a nurse, an entertainer. Let's put someone, and I don't want to like put it only in a box of like a pastor or a priest, but let's just say someone, a person of the cloth, right? A person who has dedicated their life strictly to, getting people to know about God. And then lastly, let's see. Oh, I'm trying to think. Maybe, I don't know, let's put a humanitarian or something. All right. So those are my five little options that I can give you guys. But of course, you can come up with your own. All right. But top three that you're going to put based on what you think they provide or to humanity or something like that. So let me restate. All right, my question. I know it's a little bit of a scenario tonight, right? And this is just the icebreaker, y'all. Right. So again, I brought this up because of O.J. Simpson hearing about his passing today, and literally right after, right, as people start talking about it, one of the podcasts that I came across, they had the statement of "Will he rest in peace?" And I just thought about, man, how the way people remember you, right, and the stain of your reputation and your legacy that you leave here really does matter. And it ties into the quote that I presented to you guys tonight, which is the most precious artifact that you can leave here in life is the legacy of a life well lived, right? So, along the lines with that, again, you're the guard at heaven's gates. You are able to put certain people in certain places based on how you feel like they were able to serve humanity, right? And I know this is not specific people, so we're just going by off of just generally what that person does and the importance you find in it, right? So you can come up with your own top three, or you can take it from my little five examples that I gave you guys, all right? Which is there's a surgeon, one is a nurse, the other one is, right, a person of the cloth. Another one is a humanitarian. And you know what? I'm going to put this other person too, because I think this is a person that a lot of people don't think of. A farmer, somebody dealing in some kind of area of agriculture. Because Lord knows we need we need those people, right? And they're feeding everybody. So, all right. So those are your choices. So that's just my icebreaker question, guys. It's not what really we're getting into tonight. But I thought about that. And, you know, I'm always presenting what I hope to be some interesting questions that you can introduce in a conversation, especially if you are single and navigating the whole dating scene, ways that you can kind of ignite conversation in different ways so that you guys can have maybe some like fun or interesting conversation and hopefully take away some of the awkwardness. Awkward moments of silence. All right. So if you think of anyone that you're thinking of as far as what they do, anyone that I have not stated, I would love to hear your thoughts. If you are listening to the replay, definitely flood my feed and let me know what your thoughts are of the people who you feel like you would, if you had, you know, the opportunity to put the people who you feel like really make the most impact in life. Yeah. So that is the little scenario that I have for you guys tonight and the quote that I presented. And I will put out the question, the real question for tonight, which is, can you desire something that you already have? Can you desire something that you already have? There is a therapist who I absolutely love. Her name is Esther Perel. And I'm currently reading her book, Mating in Captivity. And her whole book is basically has the aim to answer that question, right? Which is the daunting question of how do you remain in a relationship where passion, desire, interest, intrigue is not dying but you know, increasing or being able to be maintained. And I've talked about it in a different way. We had a podcast a couple of weeks ago where I said that what is compatibility without connection, right? And compatibility without connection is just familiarity. And it's very hard to be in a relationship where you are doing a routine in a stable and secure and long-term committed relationship where there's no routine, there's no structure that is in that relationship, right? We're gonna be familiar with each other. We're gonna be familiar with whatever duties, responsibilities that we have. And for many couples, that creates a monotony in the relationship. And many couples will read that as boredom, right? So we talk about it in a different way on this podcast, but it is still the same question that is being asked and the same question that we're seeking to answer. On the podcast, when I was on the last time, I said that compatibility is not king, but connection is, right? And that one of the ways to kind of combat where a relationship will kind of get where they feel like they're stagnant or in a certain place where they're not feeling, where they're not rediscovering each other, basically, is one of the ways that be connection, centered. That connection is important in the relationship. And if you kind of think about that more, even more than the compatibility aspect, that's what we'll offer, for the relationship to continue to kind of grow, and not, I guess, make a judgment of your partner that you just think you know everything about them, and leave and hold space and present opportunities not only for them to, rediscover who they are in this particular stage of life or transition of your relationship, and hold a space for both of you to do it to each other. So that was just a little rundown of how we've talked about it. But that's the question for tonight, folks. Let me know what your thoughts are on it. Can you desire something that you already have? What are your thoughts on that? And if there are some people in here who have been in relationships and you feel like you have been able to kind of weather that in a really good way, where maybe you don't even feel like you've even experienced getting into, some of the terms, like they say, the 7-year itch, or certain stages in relationships where there seems to be, feel like it's kind of stagnant, or it's not growing. There's no desire, there's no passion, there's no where you're excited, where you're enthralled to be with each other. So feel free, let me know what were some of the principles, what were some of the things that you did to not have that occur, or be able to discern maybe when it was occurring, and then, reconnect, basically. Realize that there was some disconnection going on, and you were able to reconnect. So that is the question for tonight. Can you desire something that you already have? I think about conversations, especially conversations that I've definitely heard men, either casually hearing them talk amongst each other, and where, a part of being, and of course it's different now in modern days, especially now with the conversations that are going on around relationships. But typically, most of the times, where the man is the initiator, and he is, be the person that's going to approach the woman, and how much that desire, or the chase, as some would define it, is enthralling to them, of seeing a woman that they are highly attracted to, and wanting to go through the process of, basically getting to know her, and getting to have her get into a place where that woman is embracive or accepting, of his actions. And how sometimes, once he does have that woman, especially if you're talking about not just getting to know her or talking to her, but maybe might have been intimate with her, sexually intimate with her, how sometimes after that is done, then, right, some of that thrilling feeling that he has goes away. So I'm curious. Let me know what your thoughts are. In my mentality, I definitely, I thought about, and you guys probably gonna laugh at me, but I immediately thought about one of my favorite foods that I love. Anybody has come on here with me knows I always say I'm like a typical Jamaican, even though there are other cultures that eat this food other than mine. But I love plantains, and my husband will tell you, I can eat it every day. I can eat it every day, and when I go, grocery shopping, I can buy like 10 at a time. And if I come home and I see 10 of those plantains like on my kitchen counter, I still desire them, even though I have them every day. Now I'm being comical at this moment, but it's so the truth because I just love it. I love what I love. You know what I mean? Or I like what I like. And I think when it comes to relationships, there is a certain truth to that as well, you know. And I think, of course, it comes with maturity and understanding that the relationship that you enter is not going to stay the same throughout the longevity of the years, right? Because you grow and you change, and prayerfully, the relationship is doing what it's supposed to do, which is supposed to afford you to have more expansion, to be able to acquire more things, more responsibilities, which will require you to serve more and expend your energy towards those things, and still have to learn how to, you know, still put each other first, even along with the things that you are acquiring, and still understand that even in moments where it doesn't feel like it was in the beginning, it just means that it's a process, and it's because it's changing and you are growing. And yeah, we will have to adjust and figure out new ways to reconnect with each other, and new ways to meet the needs that have grown along with our union. So, of course, it takes that, you know, but I think how I have, I guess, described a solution to this question, which shows up as a problem in a lot of relationships because sometimes they don't know. They don't know what to do. Sometimes couples don't know what to do when, quote unquote, the flame or the fire has gone out in the relationship. And a lot of people will just be like, well, we're just not compatible anymore. Or, of course, that person has changed. It's not the person who I thought it was in the beginning, etc. And both of those statements could hold truth to it, because depending on how two people grow, and if they're not growing kind of together, then yeah, they can kind of fall out of compatibility with each other, as well as the person who you entered into the relationship has changed, as they should, because every relationship is going to cause you to, if it's doing what it's supposed to do. But the idea is to identify how, right? How has the dynamics in the relationship changed, and what are the things that we can put in place? You know, how in a positive way, how has it needed to change because of the new things and the new elements that have come into play? And the way that this, you know, my mate has changed, maybe it's necessary for who they are or what they need to do or how they need to serve. And we just need to figure out how the things that are inside of me and how I have grown can complement, you know, or we can complement each other on how we can now move forward in the best way. But the way that I describe it in my book, and I describe, and it's interesting because reading her book, Esther Perel, for those who came in later, I was just telling all the people who were on with me from the beginning that I'm reading this book by she's a phenomenal therapist called Esther Perel, and I'm reading her book Mating in Captivity, which is where I got the question from, because the whole book aims to answer the question, can you desire something that you already have? And in my book, 7 Stages of Loving Relationships, I tell people that you want to delight before you desire. That in life, when you look at it, even from our childhood, there are different things that we just delighted in. There wasn't that much of desire, you know? And I know maybe if you're listening to this, you'll probably think like, what about a child? And a child is crying for maybe their food or their milk or et cetera, and things like that. That's kind of just primal survival, you know what I mean? I'm not thinking, because I'm thinking about desire as we get older, and I don't know if any of you guys have experienced this. I have, definitely, where you can get to a place where desire becomes something that is kind of debilitating to you, because you can desire to want something, and depending on the mentality that you have, if it's so far away, or you might feel like it's such a distance between the thing that you want and the reality of kind of like the space that you're living in. For example, if there's somebody who is dealing with and feeling a heavy feeling of loneliness because maybe they desire to be in a relationship where it's healthy, where it's offering to them, right, the things that they feel like a holistic relationship would offer them, and maybe it hasn't happened for them, in years, and things like that, and you can get into a certain place where you desire something so much, but it's coming from like a poverty mentality, almost like where it's like, I gotta reach so far outside of me to get this thing that it almost works against you. You know what I mean? Like, it almost works against you. And I know there's many talks, especially when people talk about manifesting things and things like that, where it's like, okay, all you got to do is see it and believe it, and then, you'll bring it towards you. But a lot of times it can be the opposite, where someone feels like, okay, I've been desiring this for a long, long time, and I haven't experienced it. I haven't reached that goal yet. And then that person starts to feel kind of dismayed because it feels like, okay, that thing is either not ever coming, or they start to feel like it's so far from what exists inside of them. You know what I mean? And so I give the example that when I first started with my friendship with Ben, there was no really desire. I mean, we started off as friends. So I don't think we both saw, well, let me speak for me because I'm here. I don't want to speak for him because I know when he first came to school, he was like, that's the one I want. But by the time, that was when he first came, and we were like 13, 14. But by the time we actually started our, what I call forever friendship, we were 17 then, when we started hanging out a lot. And I don't know if it was on his mind that it was like, okay, I'm going to, now that Charlotte's in my space, go after her or chase after her. And in fact, we didn't just, about maybe, was it 2 years ago, we went to one of our good friends' weddings, and one of our friends explained in high school that, at least this way that he explained it, it's not me saying it, but he said, well, in high school there were a lot of people who were fond of Sharla, and he said Ben won. He was telling his wife that Ben won, and she asked him, she said, Ben, how did you, what would you say if someone asked you, how did you win Sharla over? And he said, well, I didn't chase her. I didn't chase Sharla, I chased God. And Sharla was so entrenched in wanting to know God that it was easy for us to kind of gel because we both delighted in the same things. So it just worked really naturally and organically. And his answer was the truth. If she asked me to answer why, I think we ended up together, that would be it too, because there was no desire there. Not to say that he wasn't attractive, he's always been handsome and things like that. But when you're already delighting in something, I think delight is like the mixture of love and desire put together, if that makes any sense. It's like the merger of it, because there was no desire there, because automatically when we would hang out, it was just already a delightful experience, and it was already just already doing what it needed to do without us having to try to make it do something, if that's the best way I can explain it. And so, in the book that I'm reading with by Esther Perel, one of the things she said, because you have people, of course, on any topic will fall to on a certain spectrum. And she said, and when she was writing the book, there were people who were like romantics who said, oh no, I have to have a relationship with passion, and there has to be so much desire there, or it's just going to be boring and I got to get out. It's not going to be able to satisfy me. And then you have other people who are like, no, desire is fleeting, passion is fleeting, it fades, it turns into something else, and it's not something you can ground yourself or your relationship in long term. And she said, even though they were on these opposite spectrums, what they all did agree on was that, desire does fade. They all did agree on the fact that desire does fade, at some point. And I think if you're on the lines of the fact that it does fade, then what does it turn into? I would hope that it would turn into delight. I would hope that it would turn into the fact that I get to have the honor of experiencing whatever it is with this person that I have. I had the miraculous, and I'll call it a miracle because it doesn't happen all the time or often, that I was able to be in that delight before. Though it was almost like I didn't have to go through the whole feeling of distance that desire sometimes can bring upon us. And I think we start out like that, like as a children. There are certain things that we just kind of delight in before someone puts a definition or a type of mindset on it for us, and then kind of trains us to desire certain things or to go after certain things in a certain way. There are certain things that just we delighting in naturally for that came natural, or we connected to naturally. And I think, unfortunately, the life we live now, it's not like that. There's so much chasing going on, the carrot and the stick kind of in life, whether it's your career, whether it's relationships, in so many areas. But I have some other people who have joined me. I'm so sorry. Let me say hi to all the newcomers. Of course, Frank. Oh my gosh. Imagine Van Gogh. Oh my goodness, Corey, how are you? Oh my word. Transcend with Dr. Renee. Thank you guys for popping in. And beautiful. Oh my goodness, Kadidi, thank you. Oh my goodness, I'm Ozzy. How are you guys? Thank you for popping in. All right, so I don't know when all of you guys came in because I'm just seeing it now, and I so apologize. But let me read some of Corey's responses, and then I will kind of do a double back to summarize what we're actually talking about tonight for you guys. So Corey says, "Good evening, all. I strong want for something that you have already." Wait. I think he's restating. He said, a strong want for something that you have already. He's thinking. He says, "Hi, Sharla. I think what you and Ben accomplished was a matter of getting in position to receive the blessings that are already stored up for you all. I stand firmly on that belief." Yeah, absolutely. And Ozzy says, "Love is a decision." Yeah, absolutely. I love what you said, Corey. That is exactly what it is. And it's like something you can't even really duplicate. At least I haven't been able to. I wish, if I would be a rich person, if I could put it in a formula and hand it off to everybody. And there was other areas in my life where it wasn't like that. Like when it came to me singing or wanting to, I used to go on auditions when I was in the acting space. And when I would go out, oh my goodness, I was so far removed from what actually existed inside of me that I would go on these auditions, and and Ben really had to thank gosh, my husband is really direct, and he's not afraid to tell me the truth. And so I would go on these auditions, and some of them would go through and then some of them wouldn't, and he would say, "Charlie, you know why it's kind of like it's not a consistent process for you." And it's because he's like, "You're going to these auditions like you do not have a pot to piss in." Like, you really, I don't think he said it like that, but basically that was the message that he was conveying. It was like, you're basically going in there not knowing who you are, not really standing on your skill set and your talents and your ability, stage presence, all of that. It's like you go in there, and for me, a lot of it was my nerves and fears would kick in, and then I would almost I would, not even almost, I would self sabotage myself in the process. And it was because my desire was so strong. And it was like this thing that was so far away from me. And I didn't ground it in what was within me. And I definitely, the more and more that was the mindset, the further and further I went away from just, okay, this is something that, like, God gave me, where I delighted in it, and I delighted in it for so many reasons, but I would get out of that mentality. I would get out of that truth, and it would just not afford me the best experiences. And I think sometimes we do that in relationships as well. And so I haven't finished reading the book. I would recommend anyone to read it. So far, it's really good. It's called Mating in Captivity by Esther Perel. And for me, it's interesting because I think she's absolutely brilliant. But my approach to coaching, I feel like, is the opposite of what she is so far. I haven't read the whole book, so I don't want to say it's totally, but I remember putting a note under her question, thinking, like, asking myself, like, is my approach and what I present to people kind of like the antithesis of what she's talking about? Because I don't necessarily think that the desire goes away in the relationship, or maybe that's how people articulate it. I think that somewhere along the lines we forget about the delight more so than desire. And that also is probably coming from, because I take that from a biblical perspective, where it says, delight in, the Lord, and he will give you the desires of your heart. So I do believe that the more and more you get to a state of actually delighting in the things that have already been given to you, whether it's things that you are, talented at, great at, whatever the skill sets, whatever the characteristics, and like just love doing it. Like I was at work today and I was just doing in-school suspension, and it afforded me to have some time to kind of like watch the kids, and then as well as read some of the book that I'm reading. And I just was like just so grateful, praying to God, like, because I'm a, at least I want to be a forever learner. So just having the ability to sit down for a moment and read something new and feed my mind, I delight in that, right? And it's no carrot on a stick that someone's holding for me, to do it. It's just something that is naturally a part of my nature. And I think the more and more we have things like that in our relationships that give us an opportunity to connect back to ourselves as well as to each other, then yeah, we can delight in each other, because that's what we're supposed to be doing in the relationship. And I think you can delight in something that you've had before, because, man, I remember how that tastes. Oh, that tastes really good. That's how I think of my plantains that I always want to eat. If I'm on an island alone, I'm gonna let y'all know the food that you give me, just give me some plantains. The sweet ones though, not the ripe green ones. But I remember how it tastes, and I can eat it all the time. So let me read another statement that just came in from Ozzy. He said, when initial desire leaves, and it does, have to remember that staying with that person is a decision, not just about what you're feeling in the moment. Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. And, that's the truth, that's the truth. And I think initial desire, and I think that's not a bad thing, as I was reading the book, and of course, as I'm thinking about it, as I'm talking to you, I think, thankfully, God has allowed me to mature enough to know the truth that in a relationship, things are going to change. I remember when I was younger, and I would say, oh, if that person changes, I'm out of here. Like, the moment I see, I'm telling you, don't bat an eye differently. Because the moment I see that something has changed, I am out, And of course, that was so ignorant. It was an ignorant statement and an ignorant mindset. And it was so far from the truth of the whole process of relationships. And I do think that it's a necessity for our relationships to change. No difference from, I remember, give you guys an example. I was talking to a close family friend, and he was turning, I think at that time we had a conversation, I think he was turning like 24 or something like that. And he was, reflecting because I think it was the age right before 25. And, many of us, we reflect on that the big 25 coming up. And he was saying, man, like, when I look at the people in my circle, it feels like none of us really have it to like together, whatever that together means. For him, it was like, okay, who has, the house and, the relationship and things like that all in order at 24. And I remember telling him, I was like, well, Ben and I, we did that. You know what I mean? By the grace of God, we did. We got married at 24. We had our house at 24, right? And that's all by the grace. That's not. And when we were doing it, I tell Ben all the time now when I look back, like, do you know? Like, well, I don't think we knew what we were doing. Like the weight of it. And as I'm looking, around at people who are going through that process, I'm realizing now, like, oh man, we definitely within the grace of God and in the way that He did it. But what I said to him, and I didn't say that to him to be like braggadocious or anything like that. And me stating the blessings of God, if it feels braggadocious to someone, well, I'm sorry for that. I have to, give God credit where it's due. And all of those things that happen in my life, it's definitely all credit to God and not us being in a position to listen to the guidance. But I did tell him, and I did tell him though, I asked him the question, like, why would God need to give you more? Why would God bless you with more? I asked him, why would He bless you with more? And he was like, what do you mean? I was like, well, he was in a relationship at that time. And I said, well, do you know the woman that you're with, that you're dating? Do you know if she's your wife? Are you claiming that she is? Do you need more to provide, for? Why would He increase you if there is nothing that you are aiming towards, to increase and stretch your capacity to either grow or to serve outside of yourself? And so I gave him the example. It's like, and I write it in my book, 7 Stages of Loving Relationships, that, our wants will change in life, but not the needs. Our wants will change, but not the needs. Now, we can be at an immature state where we're not understanding the essential things of life or understanding the essential principles of life. And then when you grow to mature and you say, now I place family or something over, or my health as the, primary thing or essential thing in life. Those fundamental truths did not change. It's just that you were able to mature enough to understand it. You were able enough to open yourself up, to be willing enough to hear the truth and receive it. But those things didn't change, right? And so I asked them, I gave him the example. I said, for example, where you are right now, you're at your parents' house, you have one room, and you have maybe a certain amount of food that's just for you throughout the day. And that's all you have to really provide for. But if you say in your heart that you want to marry this woman that you're with, and then it leaves, right? It's at least you offering a prayer up to God saying, okay, well, now I need to expand. I need to grow. So maybe you might want to get a house to put her in. It's still shelter, right? Instead of the little one room that you're in now, you have maybe multiple rooms, right? Because maybe you want the wife and the family in the future. So the need hasn't changed, right? I guess the package that it comes in is increased based on now you are serving something outside of yourself, right? So the food that you get, it's not just for you now. It'll be for you and your wife and possibly whatever future children that you have. So those needs haven't changed, right? But the increase in your capacity to serve and to grow and to be responsible for something outside of yourself, is going to require, right, a bigger bucket, for you to pour out of or navigate life in. And when I said that to him, it made sense. And I just said that because I thought of my experience with Ben. I remember when we were having serious conversations about marriage, he had said, I want to put you in a house. That was his strong desire. I want to put you in a house and create a space where it's, for us, for you, to be able to create our own atmosphere and environment where we could be there and refuel and do, recharge, do whatever we need to do to go out and navigate the rest of, our life. And so I just thought about that example to tell him because maybe that's why, And of course, it doesn't always happen the same way for every person. But I do think that the shift has to occur in a person to say, okay, this is what, I want to offer. I want to provide. I want to offer more out of myself. And I think if you have a relationship where the two people get into the mindset that Ozzy was talking about, understanding that love is, as they say, a verb, an action word, and a decision that you make. And that if there are moments where it feels like the flame or the initial desire has gone out, that they can keep at the center of their relationship that, you know what, no matter what, though, I'm going to delight in serving you, or I'm going to delight in following through with the vows or the commitments that I've made. And hopefully we can have an authentic and a safe space to where we won't be afraid to talk about maybe the new approaches that we can take with each other based on how our life has evolved or how our life has changed, because a lot of times it's that simple as far as the initial thing to do is not to be afraid to talk with one another to see what are the things that we can implement in our relationship, what are the new actions that we can pour into this relationship that can easily ignite variety or mystery, that can, help us to be intrigued with each other again and interested. So I think, honestly, a lot of the answer is, what do you delight in? What do you naturally really do delight in? And of course, I know some people will be like, well, what if that person delights in, if they're alcoholic or or maybe that's just me, I don't know. Or something that is clearly, counterproductive. Now that's a whole nother thing, guys, right? Like, that's a whole nother thing, right? Because that's, you already know that that's something that is going to not only have, the opposite effect on the person, that's something else. We have to go into a whole another direction when we're talking about things that are like to the point where you're using something that is a crutch for you, substance abuse or something like that, to the point of your own demise. That's, of course, going to affect you, your mental and your overall well-being, which is automatically going to affect the relationship. No, I'm just talking about whether you're talking about, I don't know, hobbies or things that are tied into your purpose, like whatever your skill sets and things. Or it could be on the other end, just simple things of, what do you delight in doing together that doesn't have to be forced or doesn't have to be pushed in the relationship? My husband and I just went to visit some family members, and on our way in visiting them, we stopped at a mall in the local town that we used to live in, and we met. It was very busy, and so I was trying to find a seat to sit down because there was this taco that Ben loves that he always is telling me about, but I never get a chance to taste it. And so we finally were in the place where he gets it, and there were hardly any seats. And so there was one couple that was leaving, and we were trying to go to that seat, but then there was this, a older lady who went to the seat before I did. And so I was like, okay, well, we can't sit there. And I guess she saw and she noticed that I was looking for a seat. And she said, are you trying to sit down? And I said, yeah, yeah. She said, you can sit here with me. And I was like, oh, thank you. So kind of you to do that. And we just like sat there and had a conversation with her. And she was just simply, I don't know, eating. It looked like, I don't know, what's that ice cream? It looked like the peppermint ice cream with like the chocolate, like chips in it. And so she was just sitting there enjoying her ice cream, and talking to us. And when we walked away, Ben was like, man, maybe life is just simple like that, right? Like and mind you, we talked to her, she's a real estate agent, very successful and things like that. She was just sitting there before we joined her, by herself, just enjoying her ice cream, just enjoying her ice cream, guys. And then when we got there, enjoyed the conversation that she had with us. And I think, in life, we can make it very, very complicated. And there are so many things that are going on in life and around us that can make us constantly think about the things that we are constantly pursuing or chasing, that distracts us from thinking about the things that are just innately inside of us, and cultivating and doing certain things just for the pure joy of it, just for the pure joy of it. And I think having environments and relationships like that, where it's like, okay, I'm doing this for you, or with you just because of the pure joy of it, not because I have this big expectation at the end, not because there's a carrot at the end of the stick for me, just because this, like, if you were here or not, I would still enjoy doing this. And I think when we get further and further and further away from the things that we delight in, that aren't attached to expectations, that aren't attached to certain rewards, then that's when desire actually takes over, So it's like, as I'm reading this book and she's asking these questions, I think the desire is actually the big monster in the relationship. Yeah, if that makes any sense. It's like desire rears its ugly head to where, I've said this to my clients many times when there are issues in the relationship. And, I'll say to them, make sure that a complaint isn't a prayer. Like, well, a complaint can be a prayer, right? It can. And I'll say to them, make sure that the majority of your prayer for your relationship is not complaint. And we can easily fall into that, right? And I don't mean like clasping your hands and praying, because I always say on my podcast that your whole life is a prayer unto God, right? Your actions speak loudly. Your thoughts speak loudly, even though it's within yourself. And we can easily fall right into that cycle of wishing our partners to be, better than what they are for us in the relationship. And you just kind of, it's like a downward spiral, and so the desire starts to become the monster in the relationship, because the desire is so great that it blinds and blocks us from either taking in what's going on in the moment, and then being able to assess what's going on presently, and then being able to provide solutions for what that is, because the desire is so grandiose, right? It's so grand that the little progress or the little steps that we take towards the very thing that we want, we don't have any honor for it. We don't have any gratitude. So then it can't double, right? It can't multiply to produce better outcomes, because we just want that big desire that we're yearning for so much. So it's an interesting thing, but I have some statements from Justin that came in. What did Justin say? Oh, okay. He's just saying he was busy working on his projects, including music. Still enjoying live. Oh, okay. No problem. No problem. He was tapping in, y'all. Sorry. I just wanted to give a moment to see what he was saying, because I didn't want to miss it. No problem, Justin. You know, you keep it, you are doing something that you delight in, which is that music that you're working on. And when you put it out into the world, you give us all opportunities to delight in it too. So I absolutely am always grateful for anybody who takes any time to pop into the live. So don't ever feel like you have to apologize for feeling like you're missing anything. You know, just keep doing your thing. You know, and if you want to, you know, keep me on in the background, that's fine. But we've been talking about a lot. And for some of the people who came in, I'll just throw out the quote that I threw out at the top of the podcast, as well as the question that we've been talking about tonight. And so the quote that I threw out at the top of the podcast is a quote that that I came up with and said, and it goes like this. It states that the most precious artifact that you can leave in this world is the legacy of a life well lived. The most precious artifact that you can leave in this world is the legacy of a life well lived. That was the quote. And the question that we have been talking about is, can you love, you know, or can you, let me not say love, can you desire something that you already have? I think many of us know that we can love something that we've already have. And it's very interesting that sometimes, and in the book that I'm reading by Esther Perel, I love the way that she particularly states this, is that sometimes, excuse me, the loving relationships that we have sometimes can, you know, dampen the desire, because love comes with fairness, of course, equality, in her words. It comes with being grounded, security, stability, and I think the idea of desire, especially when you're talking about marriages and intimate relationships, you know, you want passion, you want, you know, certain things that would entice us to kind of immerse ourselves into desire is the opposite, right? Kind of like where we need certainty in life, which is the routine, right? The structure of a relationship that helps us stay grounded, but that same structure done over a long period of time creates monotony for a lot of people. So you need the uncertainty, which is the risk taking of life, right? Where you're not certain about what's, you know, going to happen. The routine is not so laid out. And that's what we also need that. And so those are seem to be two things that are on the opposite spectrum. So you can be in a relationship with someone who you really do love, but there's not anything that you're doing to express to them that you desire them, though, you know. And I think when that happens, there's a little YouTube short that comes to my mind. It's an older couple. It's a show, and on YouTube, and I can't remember the exact name of the show right now, but it is a gentleman who goes around, and he goes around interviewing elderly people, basically people who have lived a very, you know, rich life and have seen many things. And he goes around and asks them basically questions on life, you know, what are the most important things in life, or what are the things that you regret, you know, about how you lived your life, etc. And he was talking to this particular elderly couple, and he asked them, he says, is there anything in your life or in your relationship that you cherish? And the husband literally simply just said to him, each other. the one thing that we, you know, the thing that we cherish is each other. And that has been our main, you know, our main at the center of our relationship. And it blessed me when he said it, because I was like, man, that's the truth. You know, like, if anything else, if there's anything that should be cherished, it should be the cherishing of each other. And he said that's what has made their relationship so strong, is that reminder to cherish each other. And I just saw a video maybe a half an hour, 30 minutes before I came on with you guys on someone's IG page where it showed a married couple, on their wedding day. She had most beautiful, beautiful dress on, and instead of doing like the garter, where he takes the garter belt off of her leg, he decided to wash her feet. Now I don't know, what their culture was, what the background was, what was the specific meaning as to why they chose to do this as one of their actions during their reception. But I thought it was like, wow, that was a whole nother, it puts you in a whole nother space. It's like a reverential space. Like this person, it has a reverence of this marriage that they've just entered. He has a certain, he's setting a tone. At least that's how it spoke to me. He's setting a tone of how much he's going to honor, serve, her in the relationship. And I think if the wife was doing the same thing to him, it would say, I don't know if that's what they did, if they did each other's, but in the little clip, it was him doing it to her. And I said, man, that sets a whole nother vibe, right? Than just the garter, right? The garter, that would represent like passion and desire, at least, that's what I think of it, whenever I've seen it done at a wedding. But to see someone, instead of doing that, say, I'm gonna wash, my spouse's feet. Oh, that's setting a whole nother type of tone for the beginning of the marriage. And I thought it was really, impactful to see the husband doing it to her. Because I've often, any of you guys who have been on the podcast, I've talked a lot about like the structure, the family structure of relationships. And I've always used the example of the husband being like Christ and using the term as he is the demonstrator in the relationship, meaning that he demonstrates first, right? So that means, he sets a tone, and he sets a tone of knowing, okay, this is how you navigate life when fear is present. You're full of faith, and you and you trust God. You move through. This is how you cherish or love. He's demonstrating those things first to his wife, to his family, and they're able to receive that and reflect it back to him. And just for us, those of us who are believers in Christ, that's what we're supposed to do, right? Take on the character of Christ and then reflect it into the world. And so I think him doing that on their wedding day was an amazing and impactful demonstration of the type of care that they would have for one another, and the type of honor, and the fact, that they would cherish each other. At least that's what that's the impact that it made on me as I was watching it. And, I think if we keep that type of essence in the relationship, then dwindling desire is like nothing. It becomes something that we can, kind of like a pebble that you throw in an ocean, in an ocean of honor, in an ocean of gratitude. You keep a essence and environment of that in your relationship. That's very hard to get distracted by, I guess, fleeting desire, or desire that comes from a place that is without, outside of you. And the desire doesn't become a monster that you feed, that becomes bigger than the capacity of what your love can be able, right? The challenges that your love can meet and be able to grow through and become stronger together for. Corey says, someone mentioned earlier, let me make sure I am, that love is a decision. Being in love is like the honeymoon. It fades, making the decision to operate on a higher level. Love is the growth, elevation, and self-actualization part. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Yep, absolutely. I think definitely letting love grow you, right? I'll have many couples and people come to me, and a lot of them come to the coaching to try to get ready for marriage, of course, whether it's a counseling before marriage, or go to a coach before to try to do their due diligence to be ready for what they are embarking into, and I'll tell them it's great that you're doing this, of course, right? It's great that you're doing this and you're taking action towards this, but understand that no matter what you do and how you prepare for it, marriage is meant to grow you, it's meant to grow you. And it's just one of those things. And I think that's the beauty of it. That is the beauty of it. Just like this whole conversation, I don't believe that the initial desire is going to stay the same way throughout, because you are supposed to delight in rediscovering who your partner is as life experience, transforms them and grows them. Of course, there's a core element that should keep you guys in harmony with each other, kind of yoked together, so that you don't grow apart. Whether you want to term that your core values, your core beliefs, things that you guys are just not going to move on, like trusting in God, knowing that all the challenges and the storms that happen around you will at some point dwindle as long as you guys stay connected with each other, things like that. Those are principles of truth that can be applied no matter the stage, right? So those things will be there, but as you continue to do that, it's going to, especially if you're able to stand on those principles of truth, you're going to grow and you're going to become, stronger and different. And it's a beautiful thing if you can delight in those transformations that you make, that each other, with each other, and be able to delight in the transformations that your spouse and your partner makes. But a lot of times to do that and get into a place of delight, we do have to remove the grand expectations that come along with, feeding the desire monster, if that makes any sense. We have to remove the grand expectations that we have, that feed that desire monster, that blocks us from being able to connect with each other in the here and now, and be able to have gratitude for the simple steps and maybe even small steps that we can take towards creating a more enriching and fulfilling and delightful relationship with each other. So, I think one of the things so far that has stood out to me in reading the book that I'm reading by Esther Perel, Mating in Captivity, is she said in the book that, we expect from our partners to do what a whole village once did, whether it's to be, the people that, the person that you romanticize over, the person who's going to be your counselor and your therapist, the person who's going to give you the financial security, all of these things, the friend that you vent to, your partner has to be all of those things in one person. And when you realize that they don't have to be all those things, that there are, as I always like to put it, angels that God will send your way, that they have their place and their position in your life. And if you engage with them and have honor for the position that they play, and you don't have to put all the weight on your partner. And I think that's true. And I think sometimes when the feelings of that a person gets, that the desire is wanting in the relationship, it's usually because of that. Probably because, at least one angle that we can look at is, have you put so many, layered expectations on this person that, oh my goodness, you're breaking the relationships back because you have all these heavy expectations of what this person should provide for you. when is can we look in your inner circle, and are we using those people in our inner circle for what, and why God has brought them into your life? Because then it'll take off the unnecessary weight that we put in the relationship, or on the relationship. So yeah, so that's what we have been talking about tonight. Thank you guys for all. I know it takes, you know, time to type. So I truly appreciate any of you guys, even if you didn't type anything, just for popping in a moment to say hey, to watch the show for any amount of time. I so appreciate you guys. And for those of you who double down and take the time to type out the answers to kind of conversate with me, I really do. I'm so grateful, and I honor you for it. Because I love to hear your feedback. I grow every time I come on here and hear different things that people say. So I appreciate it so much, because I always say you could be anywhere, anywhere, and your time and your energy are the most precious, right? Your time, your energy, your faith, those are the most precious resources that you can give someone here. So thank you for giving it to me for a moment of time that you have tonight. So I appreciate you guys. As always, I come on Thursday nights and Sunday evenings at 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. So feel free, anytime you see me on, pop your head in. And more importantly, I want some of these messages and some of these, conversations that we're talking about, that I do believe are so necessary, especially for the culture right now. If you know of anybody who would, one, be interested in it, would benefit from the content, let them know that I come on 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, Thursdays and Sundays. And even also, what you can do is definitely go to my YouTube channel, Forever Friends Academy, by the same name, and definitely like, comment, subscribe, so that I can kind of get on in the rhythm, algorithm there, and the word can just keep on being spread. I do whatever my portion is here, is what I pray. I hope. That's my constant prayer to God. Like, I pray that I'm doing my portion here the way that you want me to, because it really did hit me when I heard that O.J. Simpson passed away. And then I literally, went on my phone to kind of find out some of the details. And the first video that came up, to see that, man, I don't know how long, right? It's not a day, right? So it's not even 24 hours. And they literally was like, will he rest in peace because of the life that he lived? It was like, man, that was my first, thought and prayer was like, God, I do not want to leave this earth. And the first thought after I'm gone is, will she rest in peace because of the way that I live my life? And so my prayer is, Lord, help me, help me to do the things that you want me to do here in the best way I can possible, so that I can say whatever messages you have to the ordained people that you have for me to meet, because I pray that I can leave a legacy that reflects your light and love, first and foremost, and echoes the truth, and hopefully can change, or at least add, if not change, add value to people's lives. So thank you guys. Thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you. And I will be coming back on for a moment on live if you guys want to join me on my IG channel, Sharla K Music at Gmail, because just to give people the opportunity who maybe did not want to type, the opportunity to actually come on my live to express either what we were talking about today. I have been having an ongoing question, which I would love for any of the men to come on to give me the feedback. I have been taking in the feedback so that I can show some of the responses weekly on my question, my reoccurring question, what freedom does marriage afford a man? So any of the men, feel free to come back on when you see me, my live, pop back on where you don't have to type, but you can actually come on live with me and just express your point of view. All right. But of course, if you're not a man, the women are welcome too. And if you have any questions about relationships that are not on this topic that we discussed tonight, that's where I will leave the opportunity to do so. All right, but good night, folks. We are almost to the weekend. All right, so hopefully you guys will have a nice, restful night. And hopefully I'll see some of you, if not all of you, on Sunday evening with our Sunday relationship scenarios. And as always, always remember to live, to love freely. Until next time. Bye, guys.